Hi, and welcome to the Unit 5 Day 6. This is CFU5 Extra Help video. So for CFU5, you were asked to balance this chemical reaction equation, and I'm going to show you how we do that. So first step is to tally up the number of atoms that you have on both sides of the arrow. So we're going to make a list of the atoms. The first atom I see here is aluminum, Al. It's the first type of atom I see. The next one is hydrogen, H, capital H, and then the next one is chlorine. And I have a total of 1 aluminum on the reactant side, 1 hydrogen on the reactant side, and 1 chlorine on the reactant side. And I know I have 1 of each thing because there's the coefficient in front right now is a 1. When it's unbalanced, it's usually a 1, and the subscript is a 1 as well for each. All right, since this is a chemical reaction equation, I'm going to have the same type of atoms on the other side, on the product side. So I'm just going to list them in the same order that I've written them on the reactant side. So aluminum, hydrogen, then chlorine. Now I'm going to go ahead and start counting them. So starting with aluminum, there's an invisible subscript of 1 here, so I have 1 aluminum. For chlorine, which is the one I wrote at the bottom, there's 3 chlorines here. And then this last molecule has 2 hydrogens. So that's your first step, is to get your tally. And then when you have your tally, you can compare and figure out which ones are balanced and which ones are not. So right now, my hydrogens and chlorines are not right. All right, so since the hydrogen is the one I see next, I'm going to try and balance that one first. Okay, so I have 1 on the reactant side and 2 on the product side. Now, I want both to have the same number, so I'm aiming for both to have 2, and the only thing I can do to change that is to change the coefficient. Now, since I want 2 on the reactant side, I'm going to put a 2 in front of the reactant that has hydrogen in it. Now, that reactant is HCl, so the number of hydrogens will change to 2, but so will the number of chlorines will also change to 2, because I've just added a coefficient of 2 in front. Remember, coefficients sort of distribute to the subscript, so 2 times 1, that means I have 2 hydrogens, and 2 times an invisible 1 here, it means I have 2 chlorines. Okay, so my hydrogens are looking good, my aluminums are looking good, but my chlorines are still not great. All right, so I have 2 on this side and 3 on this side. Now, when you have numbers like this, like 2 and 3, what you're going to look for is a least common multiple of those. What do I mean by that? That's because 2 and 3, you can't divide 3 by 2 to get a whole number and vice versa, right? So they're not multiples of each other. So what I'm going to do first instead is I'm going to aim to try and get these to be 6, right? Because that's the least common multiple that I can get for those. So I can make these 6. Now, if I'm going to make that a 6, that means notice I have 3 chlorines on this side and 2 chlorines on that side. Well, starting with on the product side, I'm going to have to multiply this by 2. In order to get that to be 6. 2 times 3 will give me 6, right? So that's going to become 6. And the aluminum, since I've changed the coefficient in front of aluminum chloride, that number of aluminum has changed as well, so now that's a 2. All right, so my chlorines are, so I got 6 chlorines on this side. Well, how can I get 6 on that side? Well, to do that, I'm going to need to change this coefficient, which I had it as a 2. I'm going to have to make that a 6. So now the coefficient in front of HCl is a 6. So that changes the chlorine to a 6 and the hydrogens to a 6. All right, well, let's go ahead and check to see where we're at. So now my aluminums are not right. So I've got 1 aluminum and 2 aluminums. And my hydrogens are not right either. I have 6 and I have 2. My chlorines are looking good, but the rest of it isn't. So let's go ahead and see if we can correct that. Starting with the aluminums, if I have 1 on the side, on the reactant side, and 2 on the product side, I'm going to change the coefficient in front of aluminum here to a 2. And that gets that straight. So that aluminums are looking good now. And now for the hydrogens, I have 6 on the reactant side and only 2 on the product side. Now the only product that has hydrogen in it is the molecule H2. So in order to change that into 6 hydrogens, I need to figure out, well, what coefficient can I put here that will multiply with the 2 to give me 6 hydrogens? And of course, that will be 3. Because 3 times 2 will give me 6. So now I've got 6 hydrogens on this side. All right, so when I go back and check, I have 2 aluminums on both sides, 6 hydrogens on both sides, and 6 chlorines on both sides. So this is looking good. So this is a balanced chemical equation. Notice in this example, I had to sort of go back and forth, change coefficients a couple of times, and that's okay. That's sort of the process here. All right, that's it for this video. I did link the other balancing equation additional practice and videos that may help you if you need help with this. Have a quality day.